The Road to Autonomy is presented by the Road to Autonomy Index. The Road to Autonomy Index is a rules-based equity benchmark index that measures the performance of a basket of global companies that are involved in the development and commercialization of autonomy. Institutional investors and fund managers are watching megatrends that are shaping investment opportunities today. These megatrends are creating thematic investment ideas and opportunities for forward-thinking investors. We believe that one of the biggest megatrends today is autonomy. That's why we created the Road to Autonomy Index, the world's first and only pure-play index to track the thematic investment opportunity in autonomy. Follow the Road to Autonomy Index on your favorite finance app by simply typing in the ticker Autonomy. To learn more about the Road to Autonomy Index, visit roadtoautonomy.com/index. Hello and welcome to the Road to Autonomy. I'm your host, Grayson Brulte. On today's episode, we're absolutely honored to welcome Gil West, Chief Operating Officer, Cruise. Gil, welcome back to the podcast, sir.
Thank you, Grayson. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks for the invitation.
You're very welcome. And I have to say point blank, it's extremely impressive what Cruise is doing. You're running Cruise along with Kyle as a business. Cruise is scaling. You're currently in 15 cities in 10 states, and at the JP Morgan Autos Conference on August 10th, Mr. Paul Jacobson, CFO of GM, reiterated that GM's revenue target of $1 billion for Cruise by 2025 is on track. And Mr. Jacobson, he credits you with the ability to scale quickly as one of the main reasons why you're on target. How's that target working out?
Well, we're on target. I'll reaffirm Paul's point there. And look, it's a massive opportunity, and the value proposition for us is fairly straightforward, right? It's provide a service that's safer and cheaper and better, and then ultimately more accessible and sustainable than the other alternatives. So, and all those benefits unlock a massive commercial opportunity for us. So the only way, though, to really reach those benefits is by unlocking scale. So we are focused on enabling our ability to scale to new cities across the country. And then, our AI-powered software stack learns from every encounter on the road. So it continuously improves our fleet-wide performance. So that kind of machine learning then improves the performance across all our operating markets. So we're creating a flywheel effect as we go to market and scale.
It's a positive flywheel, and I want to highlight for our listeners who haven't been in one of your vehicles, it's a consistent experience. It's the Cruise experience. No matter what city you're in, you're going to have this fun, consistent experience. As you scale to, say, 30 cities, 40 cities, how do you maintain that world-class Cruise experience?
It's not easy, but the way I look at it is we've really moved from what was an R&D company to operating a commercial business with real customers. So that experience is key that you're talking about. I think as you take a ride, even your first ride, what you find is that experience normalizes quickly. You feel comfortable and confident with a car. So it starts to just normalize. And then as you take more and more rides, it becomes just a dependable mode of transportation for you. So we're really excited about that part of our journey.
And you read the feedback online, your guests, consumers, riders, what term you want to use, they're extremely excited because they know, just very similar to your old days at Delta, they know if they get in your vehicle, they're going to get from point A to point B safely, which is really, really impressive.
Yeah, I think one of the key focuses is we really focused on building that strong foundation based on safety and reliability. And then building off that foundation, we can commercially scale and continue to improve the customer experience. But you've got to have that solid foundation. And we spent a better part of 10 years developing the technology and several years now operating it fully driverless. And, we've got a really strong foundation now to build from.
You're building from a strong foundation. I want to get into the logistics. I'm really curious. When you're going to a new city, you publicly announced Miami, for example. How do you determine how many vehicles you need, how many chargers you need, what the depot is going to look like? Or I like to use the term where the vehicles are going to go to sleep at night. How do you determine all that?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, first of all, just infrastructure in general it's a really tough problem to solve. I think the way I would kind of stack rank it would be the technology to make the cars and drive themselves. That's obviously the toughest problem. And then building a purpose-built autonomous vehicle, that's the second toughest problem. And then the third toughest is our ability to scale and infrastructure is kind of a key enabler for that. So, but it's about, as you think about the difficulty of it, it's about determining the right location, as you mentioned. It's also factoring in long lead times for, utility upgrades, et cetera, cost aspect of it, of course, capacity and timing of that capacity in order to scale. So we continue to focus really on dense urban areas in each new market that we enter, because that's where our mission will have the biggest impact first. And then as part of our vision to have an all-electric future, we're building out that charging infrastructure as we expand to new markets and scale. And we've really taken a partner approach to this, by the way, and partnered with experts in that area. So leaders in construction and charging, so that we can move really quick and control our cost. And then we're also focused on what I call leveraging underutilized assets, specifically trying to share real estate that's already got another purpose for it, where that's possible. So, both the owner of that real estate and crews then benefits from that approach. An example of that recently is our San Francisco Giants agreement. Hopefully you've seen our patch on the uniforms. And we're installing chargers at the Oracle Park parking facilities. So, which today just sit empty unless there's a game. So we'll use those chargers when a game's not going on. And of course, the fans will use those same chargers during the game. But otherwise, it would just be real estate just sitting there. So we're excited about that model as we scale.
It's really smart. You're repurposing it. I look at this concert venues, for example. They're used, say, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. or 10 p.m., depending on curfews. And during the day, they sit empty and they have charging. Perhaps you can use facilities like that as well.
I think that's a great example, shopping malls, retail parking, the whole 9 yards, there's just a laundry list of opportunities to kind of basically, again, I think it's just leveraging these underutilized assets. There's an economic value creation, but it's just, think of the opportunity costs that it avoids in terms of having to build out lots and things like that when we can take advantage of the footprint that's there. It's just better city planning as well.
It's really smart. And then I look at the jobs that you can create. Let's just say, let's call them XYZ landlord, for example, and you rent 20 spaces, 30 spaces. Perhaps that individual hires a person to clean the vehicles and you get crews certified to clean them. You created a job there. That's really impressive as well.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Just the ability, as you point out, to not just charge the vehicles, launch and operate the vehicles, maintain them, clean them. There's a litany of things. Yeah, we're creating jobs along the way, so that's pretty exciting. And these are also technical jobs too, because managing a fleet of autonomous vehicles, is different than managing a fleet of human-driven vehicles.
It's exciting times. We're heading into the fall. So we got the Fall Classic around the corner, the Baseball World Series. If the Braves win the World Series, will you put a Cruise patch on the Braves jersey and have the Cruise vehicle in the parade, since you have expanded to Atlanta?
Well, it's a great question. We'll see if the Giants model carry forward. It's funny you ask that question about the Braves. My parents were in their 90s. They weren't really sure what Cruise was initially, and then they saw the patch on the Giants, and they're like, "Oh, wow, that's an autonomous company you're with." And their question was the same as yours. You think we can do that with the Braves? So who knows? You never know what the future holds.
Well, the future is bright for Cruise, and the future is bright for the Braves. The Braves have, in my opinion, one of the best young baseball teams because it is extremely, extremely well managed. It's similar to the same way that Cruise is really well managed. When I look at your deployments, one of them is in the research triangle, and it's very, very seasonal. When the kids come back to school, more individuals, and when they go home in the summer, less individuals. How do you plan for that for a capacity standpoint? Do you move in more vehicles when the students are in school and then deploy them to other markets when they're not in school?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. No, I think, first of all, let me just acknowledge that the Research Triangle in North Carolina has the best engineering school in the country at North Carolina State University. I'm a humble alumni of that school, but it's a big market. There's some great schools there. And certainly, I think the population surges when the campuses are full. But in the short run, we have a high class problem in that we are supply constrained. So we have far more demand than we do supply. So we really aren't forced to, size that at this point at the peak of total demand. So as we grow and scale, that will become more, of a challenge for us. And we think about variable capacity as a lever in our future state model. But right now, we have plenty of opportunity to put all the vehicles we have in a given market to work. We do think, based on our experience in San Francisco and Austin and hopefully other places, there's a natural cohort of riders in the universities. It's just a great form of transportation for college students. You have the safety of the vehicle. You're there by yourself or just with your friends. And, it works on a lot of levels. So we've seen raving fans, is the way I would describe them, formed out of some of the college cohorts that we've established.
I see two, as a father of a daughter, I see two major benefits for the college campus. One, you spark the imagination. Something could happen to that child's imagination and they can go on to build something really cool. And then from the father perspective, safety. I don't have to worry about a driver doing something silly or stupid. And I know that your vehicle is going to get her there safely, and I'm not worried about an individual in that vehicle. So that is a very big plus.
Yeah, we think so. I mean, as you know, Grayson, safety is really our foundational value. Our whole model is built around and missions built around saving lives. So we want to extend that every way possible. And so you are alone in the car with your friends. You're also connected to our customer support team, real time or on demand as you need it as well. So we want to make sure we provide that safe environment for our customers.
It's a safety layer. And then if I get a text, oh, hi, Dad, I'm in the cruise vehicle going from X to Z. Okay, no, she's safe. And then I can follow it. And if there's an issue, I can call customer service. And in a traditional vehicle, I'm SOL. I'm out to luck. And so I really like that just from the safety aspect. When you're in your sit down with your team and you're looking at different potential cities or regions, what criteria do you look for in those cities as say, okay, this is a potential expansion city?
Yeah, great question. We have that debate regularly, as you would expect us to. I would describe several key considerations. There's, first of all, the ODDs, or kind of our operating domains that fit the tech capabilities that we have. Of course, there's an ongoing roadmap to continue to develop our capabilities that just goes on and on. But with the capabilities that we have, what are the good fits? And that's the first filter, of course. And then really the commercial aspect of, the markets. Density matters. That's where we have the biggest impact on our mission as well. So we're looking for dense markets, initially urban city environments. And then infrastructure availability or accessibility is also a key consideration. Can we stand up the infrastructure that we need? And then, of course, the regulatory environment is another big factor there. So ultimately, we believe everybody has a right to a safer, more accessible, and more affordable mode of transportation, which we're in the process of providing. So our goal is to bring driverless tech to as many people as possible in as many places as we can. But again, focused on cities first, because that's where our mission really will have the greatest impact as we move forward. We're also exposing our tech to really many diverse conditions as possible. So climate, roadways, driving behavior, through all the testing that we're doing at multiple cities across the country. So, there's a number of kind of criteria or filters as we continue to expand that we run our processes through.
Does a vehicle, say, in Atlanta and then see something, a vehicle in Austin see something, and then it goes back into the AI to help perform that? And does that get pushed out across the entire fleet?
Yes, it does. So we have of course, our stacks powered by AI, and we use that machine learning technology really to look for things in all our markets. So the more markets we're in, and the more our machine learning is able to process, more scale we have, more we see. All of that feeds our tech model. And then, it continues to refine and improve it. So as we scale, there's a real flywheel effect to just improve our performance better and better and better. So we're excited about that aspect of it as well.
And when you're looking at, let's call it Acme City, for example, are you running modeling around energy demand? Because there are certain parts of the country where the grid is weak. There's not enough capacity. Say, okay, on day one, we're going to have 10 vehicles. Day two, we're going to have 100. Day three, we're going to have 1,000, where you model the energy out?
Yeah, we do a lot of planning around that, because again, infrastructure, can be a big constraint for our ability to scale. So we've got playbooks around that. We certainly have the ability to, kind of size the utility grid capacity, overlay our demands to that. But we've also given a lot of thought to how do we bridge some of the lead times around that, because it is lengthy to, if you've got to upgrade the grid in a given area, right? It takes time. So we've got a playbook that we're able to start to operate, start to scale, and then feather into those upgrades as we move through in a given market and scale it over time.
From a cost perspective, deploying large amounts of energy, if you have to go to ABB or Siemens, is very, very cost expensive. Are you looking and meeting with potential real estate owners that are deploying this for the apartments or for the use cases at a concert and saying, oh, can crews buy X amount of hours a day of charge time so you don't have to have that CapEx expense?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Again, I think, if we're able to leverage underutilized resources in any form, I think it benefits the owner of that real estate and crews. We tend to have counter-cyclic demand, right? Because during the peak demand times, daytime, rush hour, et cetera, we're out there, we're operating. At night, we tend to do a lot of charging and servicing and cleaning, those type of activities. So it doesn't really, there's just a counter-cyclic opportunity on a time of day standpoint where we're able to utilize real estate that on the off hours of a business or venue and really create value between us. So we continue to search for those opportunities and the partners that really allow us to enable it.
When you're going into the city, how do you determine the right amount of vehicles on day one? Is it a fixed number for each city? Is it based on density? Is it based on what the algorithm team wants to learn or what you're trying to learn from an operations perspective? How is that number determined?
Yeah, another really good question. Well, first of all, let me just say it's important that we launch with communities, not at them. So we do take the time to work closely with the local and, of course, state regulators, as well as the officials and first responders in a given area. So our approach is that we start with just a small testing fleet in each city, and then we manually drive those and collect data. And it's about kind of learning that local driving environment, looking for any nuances that may be there. And then that focus, then we are able to validate the market and the tech fit for the market and fine tune our tech stack if needed to any of the unique driving conditions of that city before we launch our service. And as everything that we do, then we start small, we expand gradually. We use what we call a build-up approach. And then, with safety gates everything that we do. So we focus on optimizing our initial service in each of the markets before we expand our fleet. And then we're also balancing the supply and demand equation to ensure we got the best rider experience and AV availability for our riders on top of that.
It seems, looking at your public data, you're going into cities faster and faster and ramping up faster and faster. Is that because all that data that you're learning from the operational standpoint of how to deploy, but also from the algorithmic side?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of two general areas I think that are enabling our ability to scale quicker. First, it's our tech stack continues to develop and learn as we've entered new markets. So we're able to just see fewer and fewer unique conditions in a given market. So we're able to move quicker. The other aspect really is what I would call that playbook approach, that cookie cutter approach to standing up a market. And there's a number of things that are involved in that. But as we go into more and more markets, we keep refining that playbook. We're very process oriented. So as we build that out, and then we think about it as what we don't want to do is just also continue to create bespoke markets. We want to make sure that as we're doing something, we're solving the problem for everything as we move forward, not just customizing each market. So our tech stack continues to evolve to fit basically across all these markets that we're operating in.
I like it. I use the term a lot. If you're an EC2 compute on Amazon or you're using the cloud storage, you just keep expanding. You're not having to rebuild everything. You're just keep expanding. You're very public now. You're 24/7 in San Francisco because of the California Public Utilities Commission, and you're all over San Francisco. Your map in Phoenix has expanded to the whole region. Will we start to see similar rollouts in other cities where you start in a certain pocket and then over time you eventually expand to the entire city?
Yeah, that's our model. It's this build up approach I mentioned, but we start small. We make sure everything's working fine. We continue to expand in terms of the fleet, the hours, and then the geography. So we'll start most dense areas typically in a city and expand from there.
When you're expanding, I'm sure you're getting, I'll call them happy riders, extra riders, the VIP riders that are going there. Okay, every day I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go cruise. I'm going to get picked up. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm going to go to the movies to cruise. Super riders. There we go. We use the term super riders. Are you learning from these super riders that are passionate individuals that are using your service on a regular daily basis?
Yeah, no, it's really key to stay connected, of course, to the rider feedback, because it's one thing, to make the vehicles drive themselves and scale, et cetera. But ultimately, we're trying to create a customer experience that people want to use, and it becomes a dependable mode of transportation. And we do have these super users. It's great to see. These are folks that are in the vehicles all the time. As Cruise employees, we all use the product. We're obsessed with it, and you're there and you're using it. You see the nuances in the feedback loop. So that basically helps us tune it as well. So, and there's a lot of nuance to that, right? Because there's one, in a sense, the technology, is extremely capable. But as human beings, we're all kind of accustomed to a certain ride, a certain feel, human-like behaviors. So it's also taking the technology to that evolution where it feels even more human-like, in the way it acts and behaves. Even though the safety, reliability foundation's there, it's great. But how do we create that experience that we're all kind of tuned to as humans? And that's also that's part of the feedback loop from the riders, and it's also that feedback loop also informs our tech stack as well.
At some point, your vehicles will just blend into the surroundings. The riders are getting in there. They won't notice difference from driving their own car to riding here. You're just going to simply blend in, and that gets exciting. When you look at the customer experience, there's a lot of data. Uber and Lyft published this over the years around pickup times. When the time you order an Uber or Lyft, you want it there at a certain time. Or do you have goals that you're working towards for Cruise in terms of pickup times?
Sure. Well, look, first of all, we at a high level, we need to be competitive with all that. I know as a customer, time is probably our most valuable commodity. So we want to value that time for our customers, and we're sensitive to pickup times. I think we do have a high class problem, again, in that in the short run, we've got more demand for our service than the supply of our AVs. So we work to balance that supply and demand equation, which is determinant of the wait times, of course. And we ensure that we've got the AVs available for our rides and then minimize those wait times. So we're focused, one, on scaling the supply, like we've been talking about, but also managing the number of riders that have access to the AVs initially. So especially as we start into a new city and scale that city, so that we're balancing availability in the equation. But our goal here, of course, is to provide a consistently better experience and more accessibility at affordable price point, and have people be able to access the vehicles in a very timely manner.
To me, your vehicles become part of the experience. I think a lot about, this is going into the future, and this is big picture. This is just me being me. You're in Miami, and this is all hypothetical now. I'm not saying you're going there. It's all hypothetical. You're expand up to Miami Gardens, and a Dolphins game is getting out, or the Super Bowl is there. High demand, let's say 75, 80,000 people in the stadium, another 20, 30,000 outside. Let's just do simple math, 130, 140,000 people. there's going to be high demand for vehicles. At that, do you have a cruise staging area at that point to meet that demand? Because this is so cool. I'm going to the Super Bowl. I'm riding in a Cruise AV. I'm going to dinner. I'm riding in a Cruise AV. This is an only in Florida experience. I'm a Floridian. I want this to happen here. Are you thinking about that?
Yeah, thank you for the question because, I think the integration into venues, into hospitality, into airports, et cetera, is really key to create that seamless experience. And yes, we're talking about it. We're actioning that in a number of ways that I'll talk about in future podcasts with you as proof points. But I think that's going to be a key differentiator for us as well, because those kind of high demand, congested environments, the ability to be able to come in and do that seamlessly really creates that customer experience that's unique. And, it also drives increases in throughput that make that transportation system far more efficient and creates an environment where it's easier on everybody. If you have that kind of well-honed process of quick pickup, drop-offs, you're servicing a lot more people, and that's got an overall effect on that whole environment in those type of big events. So we're excited to be able to play a big role in that.
Years ago, pre-Cruise being founded, I consulted for a competitor of yours in the airline space, one of the major airlines, and I worked on the in-flight Wi-Fi, and then another project I worked on was optimizing the passenger experience, which you know better than anybody. And I was running all these hypotheticals, and this is before autonomous vehicles, but now you could do it. From when the passenger arrives to the gate to the time they get out, we have all that data. We know the average walk time in the terminal. We know when the plane gets to the gate. Now we have AVs, you have all this data. Can we get to a point where the cruise airport experience is so optimized, Delta Flight 1 lands at gate, takes 7 minutes to get out, and then immediately get out, the cruise vehicles there is waiting for that individual?
Yeah, the beauty of AI is the predictive nature of it, right? So that can digest data and variables and then be able to predict outcomes. I mean, we can make the cars drive themselves on that approach. So the ability to kind of connect logistically as part of that is another dimension to it. So being able to predict where you are, what your needs are, and then match, again, supply and demand together. So it really maximizes your time as a customer. I think we're in the early innings, but the potential of that as we move forward with autonomous vehicles is just unprecedented, because you take the human variable out of it, and you've got the predictive nature of the AI on the vehicle, and the opportunity to marry that up with a mobile device and do very creative customer experience enhancing things is just, it's almost unlimited. But we'll have now the ability to do that, right? To actually connect the dots in a real way.
It's going to be fun to see this little thing I pitched to the chairman at that time to become a reality at some point in the future. Because I look, if you can connect the airport, you can eliminate that friction, you can connect it to your vehicles, you connect your vehicles to a resort or a hotel, you become an economic stimulus engine. I want to go to that city because there's no friction. I don't have to worry about the vehicle. If I want to go to dinner, your vehicles just get there. You eliminate friction and become an economic stimulus engine. If I'm the mayor and the city council, I'm calling you and doing cheerleading to get you to come here just because of the economic stimulus you're going to bring with you.
Yeah, you're right. It drives efficiency for the system, right? You remove the efficiency, give people back time, you improve the overall efficiency of the at a system level. It's powerful for sure.
The Wall Street Journal a few weeks ago reported that individuals are flying to San Francisco just to ride in autonomous vehicles. So we're not that far off. It's been reported in the journal.
Oh, it's here. It's now. It's funny, the paradigms. We just hosted an event at Cruise with CEOs, presidents, CEOs from across Fortune 100 companies. And I think the prevailing paradigm is this stuff's way out there. It's years away. Once you get in the car, right, you see the tech on the back end of that, you realize, holy smokes, it's here. It's now. And I mean, we're scaling now to other cities, as we've talked about. But I think it's cool people are coming to San Francisco to experience, but thankfully they won't have to wait very long to really not just experience it, but use it as a routine in the cities that they live in.
It's going to become part of their daily lives. And we've seen photos. Bloomberg had the Origin starting to test on the road to San Francisco. We saw you might get a very positive NHTSA ruling soon. Fingers crossed for that one. Is this a sign that Cruise is getting ready to ramp up the Origin and eventually put it into commercial service?
Yes. I mean, the Origin is a game changer for us as a company, but also I think a game changer for us as an industry and society. It's a purpose-built vehicle, autonomous purpose-built vehicle, and it has no traditional driver control. So I'll just say, having ridden in Origins, the product and the experience is superior to anything I've ever experienced, full stop. And then it also really unlocks our cost goals, and that enables accessibility, at scale. So the Origin's game changing for us. And in terms of testing, we've conducted or continue to conduct limited testing, data collection in a selected area in San Francisco. We do it during the morning hours, on fixed routes with Cruise personnel. But we're also testing in Austin as well in a limited operating domain. We're pending the NHTSA approval, and we're optimistic for that. As you mentioned, the Origin's going to be produced at scale at GM's Factory Zero in Detroit, and just know GM's tooled up and ready. So we'll be introducing the Origin commercially soon, and then in multiple cities. And I really think it's going to transform transportation as we know it. So this will be a big transition for us and the whole industry. We'll continue to operate our bolts as well, but the Origin is our commercial vehicle.
You're going to have a lot of smiles when that vehicle starts rolling around in cities. I can imagine the first time a parent takes their child in that vehicle. Mom, Dad, where's the steering wheel? Where's the pedals? Wow. And then it drives them. My daughter likes American Girls, so it drives her to the American Girl store. Well, the Cruise vehicle becomes more important than the American Girl doll store. That was a very big breakthrough. And we're going to have all those fun smiles.
It's so true. There's nothing like it. There's almost nothing like it in any mode of transportation, candidly, but it just feels big because you don't have the space taken up with all the traditional human controls. And then, and the experience it's just something like none of us has really ever experienced before. So I think there'll be a lot of smiles. It's a good analogy.
When you're operating the Bolts, you're operating the Origins, will you operate very similar to Delta, where you have the long-haul A350-900s and you have the RJs for short routes? Will it be something similar to that, or is this going to be completely mixed fleet?
Yeah, I think as you think about our fleet, everything's a journey, I think. And to some degree, as you start the journey, you're more and more informed, and you can make, other decisions as you move forward, right? So our fleet, to just put it in perspective, our fleet started with the Chevrolet Bolt. It was the R&D vehicle for us. Of course, we did the testing, the development, the early commercialization with the Bolts. It's a really cool experience as well. But, the Origin, again, is a vehicle that we're going to scale commercially with, and it's designed for cost efficiency. It's also a high mileage life vehicle and that customer experience we've been talking about, which includes pooled rides, by the way. So it's a 1,000,000-mile vehicle. It's designed for ride hail. It's designed for delivery. It's early in our journey still, but so perhaps there'll be some future commercial form factors around that.
Is it fair to compare the Origin to a fuselage, where on a commercial plane you change the seats, you change the carpeting? Is that very similar to what you're going to do with the Origin?
Yeah. So on the kind of maintenance life standpoint, look, I think similar to the airline world, you're balancing the customer experience, right, along with cost, because you want to make everything affordable for customers. And a big part of that is the interior condition, right? You've got to manage that to optimal points and upgrade it, over time as well. So we see that in our model as well. Look, these will be high wear vehicles. They'll get a lot of use. A lot of people, and we've designed them for that, but then also from a maintainability standpoint, we anticipate going in, regularly and one conditioning, obviously cleaning, the interiors on an ongoing basis, but then reconditioning the interiors, but then also replacing the interiors. So we have a multi-tiered maintenance approach to the vehicles.
Everything that you've described on this podcast and previous podcasts points to operating an efficient business. And one of the things that I admired the most about Cruise, early on, the decision was made, we're going to be a business. We're not an R&D project. We're a business. Why was that decision made to focus on being a business and not an R&D project?
Yeah, it's very true, by the way. And it really comes down to our mission, which is to provide, just to restate it, in my vernacular, it's to provide our AV ride hail and delivery service that's safer. It's a better customer experience. It's more accessible because it's more affordable and it's sustainable all at the same time compared to any other options that are going to be out there. So the true benefits of AVs can only get unlocked at scale, right? So, and that's been our focus from the start, right? Is we have to have a scaled, profitable business to sustain it and then deliver on our mission. So it's all about the mission. Everybody that works at Cruise is mission driven around what I just described. But to do that, right, you've got to have a profitable business. And that's been our focus from the start. Treat it as a business, not just as an R&D company, because we want to have the impact with our mission.
You are one of 3 executives in Autonomy that I've ever heard the word profitable business come out of their mouth. So I got to give you a giant virtual high five for that, because without profits, there is no business at the end of the day. And I'm just so impressed, the focus on the profitability, the focus on scaling, what you've done at Cruise with the team around the scaling, the focus on profitability is nothing short of exciting, because it's going to have a meaningful positive impact on society. It's going to have a meaningful positive impact on autonomy. At some point, in my opinion, autonomy is going to be one of the largest industries in the world. It's going to have a major impact on the economy, which I'm calling the autonomy economy. And Cruise is going to be there at the forefront. Because, Gil, what you're doing is absolutely impressive. And as you scale, I know you probably can't answer the number, but I got to ask, how many cities are you looking to be in by 2025?
Oh, my gosh. Well, it's a tough one, because we're, but let me just say again, future's here, it's now, right? So we're delivering on our mission and we're scaling, coming to a city near you soon. And the origins are big unlock to scale commercially, right? We're tooled up to do it. So in terms of expanding into new cities, we're at a 10x growth rate, right? We continue to be at that. So, if we haven't announced, a city near you, believe me, it's on the drawing board. So, and our focus again is cities first, because that's where we got the biggest impact on our mission, and then expanding the service areas within those cities as we deploy. But it's also, Grayson, it's not only in the U.S. We're doing this internationally, working in Dubai now to set up an operation there, and we're doing testing in Tokyo and have aspirations to grow internationally. So, it's and it's not just ride hail, it's also delivery, and that won't even be the end of our journey. So, as you look out to 2025, we've already either announced or testing in about 15 cities. So that list will only grow as you add another year or two downstream. So really excited about it.
I love to open X, formerly known as Twitter, and look at the Cruise account. Oh, new city today, and I give my 3 high fives and applause in there, because what you're doing is fantastic. The Tokyo stuff is interesting. I was watching a video last night on Tokyo where individual tourists are going to Tokyo and they're dressing up as Mario Kart and playing Mario Kart in the streets. So your vehicles are going to learn something new to avoid from that.
That's great. Yeah, every area has got its own unique challenges, but we have a good partner, of course, in Japan with Honda. So, yep.
You can have the tagline, "You'll never know what you'll see in a Cruise vehicle," and then you can have a whole marketing campaign around it. Individuals can tag a photo and put it on their social media. You're expanding internationally. You're expanding domestically. In your opinion, Gil, what is the future of Cruise?
Yeah, the opportunity for AVs is massive. You've described it, but I really see it as the beginning of a shift in society. I mean, a real change in society where we create this new mode of transportation. And Kyle, our founder, I think has said it, but it's really a shift where today we do work for our cars, right? And that, shift that's coming, it's the cars are going to do work for us. So, the status quo of transportation, it's really been broken. It's been broken for too long because, we just accepted it as our reality, right? 46,000 people a year die just in the U.S. from automobile accidents. Millions are, seriously injured every year. So it's just kind of been the reality we've been dealing with. Now we've got a much better alternative, and it's changing before our very eyes. So I think that's the future. We're in the early innings of it. It's not years out there. It's happening now. Future's here now. But I think it's going to continue to evolve, right? It's going to expand beyond just robo-taxis and delivery. And in our tech, again, we've got a flywheel effect to it. And I see the future having more and more form factors, as we call it, operating in more and more places and just really contributing to society through our ability to execute our mission.
One thing I can guarantee to the listeners, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch where you're going and where Cruise is going in the future. Gil, as we look to wrap up this insightful conversation, until next time, what would you like our listeners to take away with them today?
Well, I think what you ended on is, world's literally changing before our eyes. So, enjoy the moment. It's different, but, enjoy the ride, I guess, would be kind of how I would sum it up. Having ridden a lot of miles now in autonomous vehicles, I think you're really going to enjoy it. But go experience it. It's like the first time you ever flew. You'll remember it for the rest of your life, but then it normalizes quickly and it'll become your dependable mode of transportation. So, Grayson, thank you again for spending the time with me here today.
You're welcome. Enjoy the ride. At some point, the Cruise vehicles are going to be in music. They're going to be in songs the same way airlines and airplanes are in songs. The future is bright. The future is autonomous. The future is Cruise. Gil, thank you so much for coming on the Road to Autonomy today.
Thank you, Grayson. Really appreciate it.
If you've enjoyed listening, please kindly rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Want to get in touch? Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Road to Autonomy, or email podcast@roadtoautonomy.com. The Road to Autonomy podcast is produced by the Road to Autonomy LLC. The views and opinions expressed on the Road to Autonomy podcast do not necessarily reflect those views of the Road to Autonomy, its subsidiaries, its shareholders, directors, investors, or partners. The content discussed on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be taken as legal, investment, tax, or business advice. Nothing is a recommendation that you purchase, sell, or hold any security or other investment, or that you pursue any investment style or strategy. The content of this podcast is presented on an as-is basis with no warranties, express or implied, of any kind. Financial mentions about companies in the Road to Autonomy Index and discussions about the Road to Autonomy Indexes are for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon when making any investment decision. Furthermore, an inclusion of security within the Road to Autonomy Index is not a recommendation by the Road to Autonomy Indices LLC to buy, sell, or hold that such security, nor is it considered to be investment advice.